My name is Celia Jimenez. I'm 29 years old, and until recently, I believed stability meant safety. I worked as a project coordinator for a mid-sized manufacturing company. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid well and gave me structure. My boyfriend, Daniel Jimenez, was 27. Calm, charming, in a quiet way, the kind of man parents trusted almost instantly. We'd been together for 3 years and living in my apartment for the last 18 months. His parents adored me. They were deeply religious, traditional, and very serious about values. To them, I was the woman who kept their son grounded, the future wife they proudly talked about with friends from church. 2 weeks before everything fell apart, Daniel told me he had a 4-day work conference. Out west, he said. Mandatory corporate training for his marketing role. Boring but important. I nodded, smiled, and told him to have fun, even though something about the way he said it tightened my chest. Daniel usually complained endlessly about work. Stress deadlines, annoying coworkers. This conference appeared out of nowhere. No emails I'd seen, no calendar reminders, no casual mentions leading up to it. Still, I didn't question him. I didn't want to be the suspicious girlfriend, the insecure one. I told myself trust was part of being an adult. That was my first mistake. The night before his flight, Daniel rushed out after realizing he'd forgotten his laptop charger at work. He kissed my cheek, promised to text when he landed, and told me to make dinner without him. That was when I noticed his tablet sitting on the kitchen counter. I wasn't snooping. That matters to me even now. I was cooking and needed a recipe I'd saved, so I picked it up without thinking. It was unlocked. His messages were synced. A notification slid across the top of the screen. Saved contact, regional manager, work. The message read, "I can't wait to finally see you again, baby. 4 days isn't enough, but I'll take what I can get." My hands went cold. I stared at the screen, forcing myself to breathe, telling myself there had to be an explanation, a joke, a misunderstanding, anything that didn't end with my life cracking open. But curiosity quickly turned into dread as I opened the message thread. Months of conversations appeared. Explicit memories, late-night longing, complaints about me, comparisons I never asked for, plans carefully layered over time. The regional manager wasn't his boss. She was Lauren Hayes, his ex-girlfriend from college. They'd dated for 2 years before he met me. According to the messages, they'd reconnected 5 months ago. It started, he claimed, as innocent catching up. Nostalgia. Then it turned emotional, then physical, then deliberate. The conference wasn't a conference. It was a visit to her. She booked the hotel. She planned the dates. 4 days together while I stayed home believing I was loved. I sat at the kitchen table for almost an hour rereading everything. My dinner burned on the stove smoke, curling into the air before I even noticed the smell. 3 years. 3 years of my life. I'd been quietly thinking about marriage, about rings, future plans, shared holidays, all while he was rewriting our relationship behind my back. My first instinct was to call him, to confront him, to demand answers. But then something colder settled in. Daniel wasn't careless. He was calculated. If I confronted him now, he would lie. He would cry. He would twist the story until I doubted what I'd seen with my own eyes. So I stayed silent. He left the next morning at 7:00 a.m. His flight confirmation was still open on his laptop. Departing Thursday. Returning Sunday at 5:30 p.m. 4 days. 4 days to decide who I was going to be when he came back. That night I texted him like nothing was wrong. "Miss you already. Hope the conference isn't too boring." He replied within minutes. "So dull. Wish I was home with you." I stared at the message for a long time before setting my phone face down on the table. That was the moment I stopped being his girlfriend, even if he didn't know it yet. The apartment felt wrong the moment Daniel left. Not quiet, empty, in a way that echoed, like the walls knew something I didn't want to say out loud yet. I woke up Friday morning out of habit, rolled over expecting to see him, then remembered everything all over again. That sick drop in my stomach returned sharper than before. I didn't cry right away. That surprised me. Instead, I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying the messages I'd seen on his tablet. Not the explicit ones that was too easy. It was the casual lies that hurt the most. The good morning baby texts he sent me while planning weekends with her. The love you he typed with the same fingers he used to tell Lauren Hayes he missed her body. 5 months. I kept circling that number in my head. 5 months wasn't a mistake. It was a second relationship running parallel to mine, carefully hidden. Daniel texted around noon. "Made it. Hotel's nothing special. This training is already killing me." I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. That sucks. At least it'll be over soon, I typed back. He responded with a heart emoji. I felt nothing when I saw it. That day passed slowly. I tried to work from home, but my mind kept drifting. Every familiar object in the apartment felt tainted: our couch, the coffee mugs we'd picked out together, the framed photos on the bookshelf. I realized something unsettling as the hours dragged on. If I confronted him now, he would deny everything. He'd say Lauren was exaggerating, that the messages were taken out of context, that I was overreacting. Worse, he might convince his parents that I was jealous, paranoid, unstable. They trusted him implicitly. They loved me, yes, but they believed in their son. Truth needed witnesses. By Saturday morning, that thought had rooted itself deep inside me. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want screaming matches or dramatic ultimatums. I wanted the lies to stop existing in the dark. I opened Daniel's laptop again, this time deliberately. I took screenshots of everything: the messages, the flight confirmation, the hotel booking in Lauren's name. I saved them in 3 places: cloud storage, an external drive, and my own phone. Each click felt like another door closing. Saturday afternoon, I drove aimlessly for nearly an hour, trying to convince myself to let it go, to confront him privately, to end it quietly and walk away with dignity. But then I remembered his parents, how his mother once told me she stopped speaking to her own sister for 2 years after finding out about an affair, how his father spoke about loyalty like it was sacred, how they praised Daniel for being a good man in a world full of temptation. They deserved the truth. Not my version of it, not his excuses. The truth. That evening, I sat at the kitchen table with a notepad, something I hadn't done since college. I wrote everything out, not emotions, facts, flight times, dates, names, messages. A plan began to form, not all at once, but piece by piece. Sunday morning, Daniel texted again. "Almost done here. Can't wait to see you tonight." I replied after a pause. "I have a surprise planned." That part wasn't a lie. He sent a laughing emoji. "You always do." I closed my eyes when I read that, because he had no idea how right he was. By Sunday afternoon, everything was set. The flight details were confirmed. Terminal B, arrival time, 5:30 p.m. I changed out of my pajamas and stood in front of the mirror longer than usual. Not to look pretty, to look steady, like someone who had already crossed the hardest part. I wasn't doing this to hurt him. I was doing it because pretending not to know was hurting me. And when Daniel walked out of that airport, whatever version of our relationship existed in his head was about to end. I didn't sleep much Saturday night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Daniel's messages glowing on that tablet screen, words he never thought I'd read. By morning, my chest felt hollowed out, like something essential had already left me. I made coffee and stood in the kitchen staring at the apartment. For the first time since we moved in together, I didn't see us. I saw borders. What was mine? What was his? Where the lines should have been all along. I started with the closet. Daniel's clothes were still hanging neatly on the right side, exactly how he'd left them. Dress shirts I'd ironed. Jackets I bought him for Christmas. Shoes lined up with care. I didn't rush. I didn't throw anything. I folded each item the way I always had, stacking them into boxes I'd picked up from the storage room downstairs. There was something strangely calming about it. Each shirt folded felt like a sentence ending. Each box taped shut felt final in a way words never could. I packed his toiletries from the bathroom, his books from the shelf, his gaming console. The framed photo of us from a friend's wedding went into the last box face down. I didn't look at it longer than necessary. By early afternoon, 4 medium-sized boxes sat by the front door. Everything that was his, nothing that wasn't. I washed my hands and sat down on the couch, staring at the boxes like they might say something back to me. Instead, my phone buzzed. Daniel's mother. I let it ring twice before answering. "Hi, Mrs. Jimenez." "Oh, Celia, sweetheart," she said warmly. "I was just thinking about you. How's Daniel doing at his conference?" I swallowed. "Actually," I said carefully, "that's why I'm calling. I was thinking of surprising him at the airport when he gets back today. Flowers, dinner, the whole thing." There was a pause, then delight. "Oh, that's such a beautiful idea," she said. Your future father-in-law will love that." I forced a soft laugh. "I thought maybe you and Mr. Jimenez might want to come too. Make it a family welcome home." She didn't hesitate. "Of course, we'd love that." "What time does he land?" 5:30, Terminal B. I can pick you up around 4. "We'll be ready." When I hung up, my hands were shaking. They didn't deserve what they were about to see. That truth sat heavy in my chest. But I also knew this. If I told them privately, Daniel would spin it. He always did. He'd make me sound dramatic, emotional, unstable. This wasn't about punishment. It was about reality. The next step made me feel worse. I needed to know Lauren Hayes would be there. I created a fake social media account with a believable name and a generic profile photo. It took longer than I expected to make it look real. I scrolled through Lauren's public posts until I understood her tone, her interests, the kind of attention she responded to. Then I messaged her. I introduced myself as someone working on a small photography project about emotional reunions at airports. I told her I'd noticed she traveled often and asked if she'd be seeing someone off that weekend. She responded faster than I expected. Actually, yeah. Dropping my boyfriend off tonight. He's flying home. Boyfriend. The word hit harder than I thought it would. I asked what terminal, what time. Terminal B, around 5. Exactly where we'd be. I thanked her, closed the app, and sat there in silence for a long time. My heart pounded, but my mind felt strangely clear. By 4 o'clock, I was in the car, the boxes in the trunk. I picked up Daniel's parents right on time. His father was dressed neatly like he always was for anything involving family. His mother held a small bouquet of flowers, smiling the entire drive. "You're such a good woman, Celia," she said softly, "taking such good care of our son." I nodded, unable to trust my voice. We reached the airport at 4:45 p.m. I led them toward the arrivals gate and suggested we stand near the doors where passengers exited. "Perfect," his father said. "He'll see us right away." At 5:15, my phone buzzed. Flight landed. I showed them the arrivals board. Should be out soon. His mother clutched the flowers tighter. I folded my hands together and waited. Time moves differently in an airport. Minutes stretch. Sounds blur together. Rolling suitcases, muffled announcements, people reuniting and separating all at once. I became painfully aware of every second as we stood there, Daniel's parents on either side of me, unaware they were about to watch their son step out of a lie. At 5:27 p.m., people started spilling through the arrivals doors. Business travelers first. Families with children. Couples rushing into embraces. Daniel's mother leaned forward slightly every time someone who looked remotely like him appeared. "Any second now," she whispered. My phone vibrated again at 5:30. Gate cleared. My heart started pounding so hard I was sure they could hear it. Then I saw him. Daniel walked through the doors, smiling, his carry-on rolling behind him. He looked relaxed, happy. Beside him was Lauren Hayes, her hand laced through his like it belonged there. She was laughing at something he said, leaning into him like she'd done it 1,000 times before. They hadn't seen us yet. They stopped just beyond the doors, close enough that I could hear the low murmur of his voice. Daniel leaned down and kissed her. Not a quick peck, a slow, deliberate kiss. The kind you give when you think no one's watching. I felt Daniel's mother stiffen beside me. "What is?" she whispered. Her husband inhaled sharply, the sound strained and sharp like it hurt. Lauren pulled back first. Daniel smiled at her in a way I hadn't seen in months. Then he looked up. Our eyes met. The color drained from his face instantly. "Mom," he said, his voice cracking. "Dad." Lauren turned confused. "Who are—" Daniel dropped her hand like it burned him. "This isn't," he started, then stopped, scrambling. "I can explain." His father's voice came out cold and unfamiliar. "Did you just kiss that woman?" Daniel opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. "It's not what it looks like." Lauren looked between us, realization dawning slowly. "Daniel," she said carefully. "You said you were single." "I am," he snapped, then looked at me, panic flickering. We were basically done anyway. I stepped forward. "News to me," I said calmly. His mother stared at him, her eyes glossy with disbelief. "You told us you were at a work conference." Daniel shook his head frantically. "Mom, please. We watched you walk out holding her hand," she said, her voice breaking. "We watched you kiss her." Lauren took a step back, hands raised. "I don't want to be involved in this. You lied to me." She turned and walked away without another word, disappearing into the crowd. Daniel's father put an arm around his wife, his jaw tight. "We're leaving." "Dad, wait. Don't follow us," his father said. "Don't call us. I need time to understand how my son became someone I don't recognize." They walked away. His mother never looked back. Daniel stood there, shaking, tears streaking down his face. I opened the trunk of my car, pulled out the boxes, and set them at his feet. "Your things," I said. "Everything that was yours at the apartment. I changed the locks this morning." "You can't do this," he said hoarsely. "You planned this." "No," I replied. "You planned 5 months of lying. I just stopped pretending I didn't know. Where am I supposed to go?" I looked at him for a long moment. "That's not my problem anymore." I turned and walked away before he could say anything else. The first 48 hours after the airport were silent. No calls, no messages, no angry voicemails, nothing. At first, I thought Daniel was regrouping, trying to figure out how to twist what had happened into something survivable. But by the second night, I realized the truth was simpler. He was in shock. The kind that leaves you staring at the ceiling, replaying a moment you can't undo. I slept better than I expected. Not peacefully exactly, but without the constant tension I'd lived with for months without realizing it. The apartment still felt strange, but it felt honest. Empty of lies, even if it was also empty of him. The silence broke on the third day. We need to talk. That was it. No apology, no explanation, just expectation. I didn't respond. The next morning, another message arrived. You owe me a conversation after what you did. What I did. I set my phone down and went to work. By day 4, the tone shifted. I can't believe you humiliated me in front of my parents. That was cruel, Celia. I made a mistake and you destroyed my entire life. A mistake. 5 months. A planned trip. A second relationship. All reduced to a word that sounded almost harmless. I typed a response. Deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that too. Silence felt heavier than any argument I could offer. That evening my phone rang. A number I recognized immediately. Daniel's older sister. I hesitated before answering. I'd always liked her. She was more grounded than Daniel, less dramatic, less defensive. Hey, she said quietly. I'm not calling to yell at you. Relief washed over me. I want to understand what happened, she continued, because what Daniel's saying doesn't make sense. So I told her. Everything. The messages. The fake conference. Lauren Hayes. The airport. I didn't embellish. I didn't dramatize. I just laid out the facts. She was silent for a long time. I knew something was off with him, she finally said. I just didn't think he was capable of this. Neither did I. My parents are wrecked, she admitted. My mom hasn't stopped crying. My dad won't even say Daniel's name. I never wanted to hurt them. I know, she said gently. And honestly, if you'd confronted him privately, he would have lied his way out of it. This way, there's no room for spin. They saw it. That validation settled something inside me I hadn't realized was still shaking. On day 7, Daniel showed up at the apartment. It was nearly 11 at night when the pounding started. Hard, angry, desperate. Open the door, he shouted. You can't keep my things. I opened it but left the chain on. And I gave you everything that was yours, I said evenly. You kept my jewelry, he snapped. My grandmother's watch. I looked at his wrist. You're wearing it. He froze, then instinctively covered it with his sleeve. This isn't over, he said, his eyes wild. I'm calling the police. Go ahead, I replied. I have a detailed inventory of everything I packed with photos. And screenshots proving your trip wasn't a conference. Filing a false report probably won't help you. His face flushed with rage. You're a manipulative psycho, he spat. No wonder I cheated. I didn't flinch. If that helps you sleep, tell yourself whatever you need to, I said. But you don't get to rewrite reality. I closed the door. I heard him kick it once, then storm off. Day 10, Lauren Hayes messaged me. She apologized, said she didn't know he was still with me, said she'd blocked him after the airport. I believed her, not because she deserved forgiveness, but because her words matched his sudden desperation. He'd lost both versions of his life in one afternoon. By the end of the second week, Daniel tried a different angle, a formal email. He claimed I owed him $4,000 for his share of the apartment and furniture. I forwarded it to a lawyer friend. He laughed. Daniel's name wasn't on the lease. He'd never signed anything. There was no cohabitation agreement, no receipts, no claim. I responded with one sentence. Please direct any further legal communication to my attorney. That was the last threat he made. On day 18, his father called me. He apologized. Not for the airport, for the position his son had put me in. You deserve better, he said, and you saved yourself from something worse. That call gave me a peace Daniel never could. I hung up, sat on the couch, and let myself breathe. The worst was over, or so I thought. I thought silence meant the damage had finally settled. I was wrong. By day 16, Daniel stopped trying to scare me and started trying to rewrite me. It began quietly. Subtle enough that if I hadn't already lived through months of lies, I might have missed it. A mutual friend texted to check in, her tone hesitant, careful, in a way that immediately set my nerves on edge. Hey, just wanted to make sure you're okay. Things sounded pretty intense. What things, I asked. There was a pause before she replied. Daniel said the relationship wasn't healthy, that you were controlling. Controlling. I stared at the word until it blurred. That afternoon, another message came in. Then another. Different people. Same careful phrasing. No accusations, just concern. Just enough doubt to plant a seed. That was when I understood what Daniel was doing. He wasn't trying to get me back anymore. He was trying to survive his own reputation. By painting himself as the victim, he could turn the airport into proof of my instability instead of his betrayal. If enough people believed it, maybe even his parents would soften. Maybe he could come home with a story that explained everything except his choices. That night, his sister called again. "Celia," she said, and I could hear the exhaustion in her voice. "I need to ask you something. And I want you to know I don't believe it, but I need to hear your side." "Ask." "He's telling people you emotionally abused him, that you monitored his messages, that you were jealous and paranoid, that Lauren was comfort, not cheating." I laughed once, sharp and humorless. "That's convenient." "That's what I told him," she said. "I was around you two constantly. I never saw anything like what he's describing." "Thank you. I just wanted you to be prepared," she added. "He's laying groundwork. This isn't about you anymore. It's about control." After we hung up, I sat in the dark and felt something heavy settle in my chest. Not fear, clarity. Some people can't face themselves without a mirror that lies back to them. 2 days later, Daniel's best friend reached out. A long message. Careful wording. Moral superiority dressed as concern. "Everyone makes mistakes," he wrote. "You didn't have to destroy him like that. He's lost his parents, his home, his reputation. Haven't you punished him enough?" I typed my response slowly. I didn't punish him. I stopped protecting his lies. Then I blocked the number. On day 21, I heard through mutual friends that Daniel had moved back in with his parents. They let him stay, but with conditions. Strict ones. No going out. No social media. Church every Sunday. Accountability meetings with his father. Full transparency. A probation period measured not in weeks, but in trust. For a man who believed he could live 2 lives without consequences, it was a kind of quiet imprisonment. Lauren Hayes was completely gone from the picture. Apparently, she'd tried to reach out to him after the airport. He'd begged. She'd blocked him. The relationship that cost him everything didn't even last a week once the truth surfaced. The irony wasn't lost on me. By the end of that month, the messages stopped. The rumors faded. People moved on to the next drama, the next distraction. And for the first time since I'd picked up that tablet in my kitchen, I felt something close to peace. Not happiness, but freedom. Still late at night, I asked myself one question over and over. Did I go too far? The answer never changed. Truth doesn't become cruelty just because it's seen. By the 4th week, the noise around Daniel had mostly died down. No more messages, no more surprise calls, no more carefully worded concern from people who didn't really want answers. Life started to resemble something normal again. I returned to routines I hadn't realized I'd abandoned: morning walks, cooking real meals, answering emails without rereading them 10 times. That was when the email arrived. The subject line was formal. Too formal. Financial reconciliation. Daniel was claiming I owed him $4,000 for his share of the apartment and furniture we'd accumulated while living together. The language was stiff, legal sounding, clearly copied from somewhere online. He wrote as if we'd been business partners dissolving a company, not 2 people who once planned holidays together. I read it twice, then laughed out loud. The apartment lease was in my name only. When we moved in, Daniel's credit was bad. He paid half the rent in cash each month, no contract, no agreement. The furniture mine. Every major purchase charged to my card. Couch, bed, TV, kitchenware, everything. I forwarded the email to a close friend from college who'd become a lawyer. He replied within 10 minutes. "He has no case. This is a scare tactic. Respond once. Keep it short." So I did. "Please direct any further legal correspondence to my attorney." I included my friend's firm name and hit send. That was the last message I ever received from Daniel. 2 days later, his father called. I hadn't expected that. Not after the airport. Not after everything. "Celia," he said, his voice slower, heavier than I remembered. "I owe you an apology." I told him he didn't. "I do," he insisted. "Not for what happened at the airport. That needed to happen. But for the position my son put you in. You shouldn't have been the one to reveal his character to us." There was a pause before he continued. "My wife and I have been talking, looking back. There were signs we ignored because we wanted to believe the best. Small lies, blame shifting, shortcuts. We enabled it." I swallowed hard. "You didn't deserve this," he said. "And you deserve better than what Daniel offered you." That call did something Daniel never managed to do. It gave me closure. When we hung up, I sat quietly for a long time, letting the weight of the last month finally settle. Not collapse, settle, like dust after a storm. I wasn't vindicated. I wasn't triumphant. I was simply done. 3 weeks after the airport, life didn't snap back into place. It softened. That was the best way I could describe it. The sharp edges dulled. The constant vigilance I hadn't realized I was carrying finally loosened its grip. The apartment still felt too quiet at times, but it was an honest quiet. No half-truths humming in the background. No second phone lighting up in the dark. I heard through mutual friends that Daniel was officially back living with his parents. Not temporarily, not until things cooled off. Back. They'd taken him in, but on terms that would have felt suffocating to someone like him. No late nights, no social media, full transparency with his phone and finances, church every Sunday, weekly sit-downs with his father about accountability and responsibility. He was working saving money and trying apparently to prove he could be trusted again. It sounded miserable, but it also sounded earned. Lauren Hayes had vanished from his life completely. From what I heard, she'd blocked him everywhere after realizing how thoroughly he'd lied. The relationship he'd risked everything for didn't survive exposure. It rarely does. The detail that made me pause was this. Daniel tried to contact her more than once after the airport. Apologies, explanations, promises. She never responded. As for me, I made small changes. I took down every photo of us and put them in a box I didn't label. I donated clothes he'd left behind. I replaced the bed frame not because I needed to, but because I wanted to sleep without memories pressing into the mattress. I rearranged the living room so the space felt like it belonged to me again. A coworker asked if I was dating. I laughed, not bitterly, just honestly. I'm learning how to trust my own judgment again, I said. That takes a minute. Some nights, usually the quiet ones, I wondered if I'd gone too far. Bringing his parents to the airport, letting them see everything without warning, the public unraveling. It had been calculated, intentional. There was no denying that. But then I remembered the messages. 5 months of lies. 5 months of looking me in the eye and reassuring me when I sensed something was wrong. 5 months of making me question my instincts while he lived 2 lives comfortably. What happened at the airport wasn't revenge. It was truth colliding with timing he couldn't control. Daniel's last message came 2 days ago. I hope you're happy destroying us. I didn't reply. If I had, I would have said this. I didn't destroy us. I stopped carrying what you broke. I'm not happy, but I'm free. And for now, that's enough. Tonight, I'm ordering pizza and watching something stupid on television. The kind of show you don't have to think about. The kind of evening that doesn't require vigilance or explanations. It's my first peaceful Sunday in a long time.